Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another roadmap stream. Can we do a quick sound check? Hello, Adam. How are you?
I am great, if a little hot. It's
A little hot. Yeah, it's been a bit warm, hasn't it? I hope everybody's staying hydrated and keeping cool. And have you been looking after yourself?
I've been trying to, but yeah, I'm partly ginger as well, and we definitely don't do well in sunny weather. So I would much rather be sat in a cool dark room somewhere, enjoying developing trains. But we can't have everything. Maybe winter can't come. I'm definitely a winter.
Are you wishing for winter already? Oh my gosh!
I'm always wishing for the opposite weather that we have. So.
No, I don't think the people in the chat here came to listen to us talk about the weather.
Absolutely no.
No, it's been 3 weeks since the last roadmap stream, which is quite a long time between streams. For anybody that's wondering why there's been such a long gap, it's because we all decided to take time off at exactly the same time, and it was really well thought out and really well planned. So that was really good of us. But no, that's why there's been the delay. And tonight we're actually going to be talking about the most recent roadmap article, which was actually published last week, wasn't it, Adam?
Yes. Yeah, while we were all on holiday. Yeah.
While we were all on holiday, exactly. Exactly. Adam is quiet. Do you want me to try and turn up Adam a little bit more? Let's turn you up, Adam. There we go. There you go. You should be a little bit louder now.
Cool. I like being loud. And then you have to turn me down again because I talk too much. So.
Yes, I know. Suddenly I'll just mute you in case you go on a bit too much.
But at least I'm pretty sure we don't have Sam coughing in the background on this one.
No, we don't. This isn't actually being looked after by the Almighty. I'm in charge of pushing the buttons tonight.
Yes.
Yeah. And it's why some of you might notice that there's a different background and we don't actually have the ticker at the bottom at the moment. That will be coming back. But this is just a different background just for the one stream. Now, Adam, we've got some nice stuff to talk about with regards to the Preserve collection tonight, haven't we? That's why you're with us.
Yes, yeah, that's why we delayed from last week, so that we could do more talking about it. We could go into some more detail. It's not all new, so if you have been following the streams over the past couple of months, as there's the Preserve crew has gone in and begun assisting with the release of Rush Hour. There is stuff obviously that is still part of that, so we have been still working on the same things. There's been a lot more testing now since the last time I was on stream, so everything so far is going well. One or two things have come back that are refusing to get packaged in the box, so still working on those, but so far everything is going really smoothly. And just like everyone was worried about the changeover to 426 with the release of Rush Hour, so far everything has been going really, really smoothly. We're much more pleased with the progress now. So summer is going well so far.
That's actually really comforting to hear, because I know that many in the community have been concerned with how it's going to be ported over to the next engine upgrade. So it's I'm glad to hear that it's going well as well.
Yes. Yeah, I mean we've had it in test now for 3 months, is it? A minimum 2 months. Yes. I definitely we started doing it it's going to be 3 because we started doing our testing back in May. So yeah, it's been going really well.
That's really good news. Yeah. Now, before we get on to you, Adam, we are going to discuss some other things that were mentioned in this particular roadmap.
Cool.
And then, should we say, the floor is yours. And I might cut in every now and then with a few questions from the community, if that's okay with you.
Absolutely. No, that's one of the reasons I love doing these streams, because answering questions and having that exchange, I think, is incredibly powerful. So, yeah, I'd love to be here to answer questions.
Excellent. So, the first thing we're going to talk about with the roadmap article was the mention of the Livery Designer and Scenario Planner 2.0. And I've seen a lot of talk about this in the forums and everybody asking a lot of questions surrounding this. I don't have much to share with you right now beyond the fact that it will arrive after the Rush Hour update. So we will keep you posted as we have more information with that, but right now there isn't really much to share with regards to the livery designer and the scenario planner 2.0.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. It is in planning, those changes.
Yes.
So at the moment we don't have anything more to discuss on that.
Yeah, so for anybody that's joining the stream as well, say perhaps for the first time, what does in planning mean, Adam? What point is that? Is it how far along are you when you're in planning?
It's the stage where there is work definitely happening about it. It's not just in discussions. It's not something we're thinking about. It is actually where we're dedicating time to put stuff together, come up with designs, get agreements and things. So it's still very much the admin phase.
Yes.
But it's not blue sky thinking. It's not throwing ideas out there. It is actually an established stage. It's the first real stage where things start coming together, and then it'll go. When we've got the work and we've decided what it is we're going to do, it goes into production.
Yes.
It's in there, and then obviously the stages continue from that point.
So it's still very early days.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Now, obviously, with the mention of the scenario planner, it's actually brought some other questions that you might be able to answer.
Okay, cool.
We've been asked if we'll be getting weather updates. So will users see the new skyboxes and will they be implemented? And will they also get advanced interfaces, including PIS support and the new level crossings?
So some of those, or basic those three features, the level crossings, the PIS systems, for anyone that we're glancing over there, the platform information systems, or sometimes the passenger information systems, which can be both on the platforms and on the trains. So hence why we sometimes call them platform information systems. And the new weather there, those things are actually built into the railway lines themselves. So if you're using the scenario planner, then any route that you're using that on, those features would obviously be in that in the route itself. They may not have been upgraded, so obviously any routes on the preserve collection that haven't had that pass yet, hadn't had that upgrade, those features upgraded, then they won't be present. These features are on a per railway basis, so either the main team or the preservation crew have to go through and add those in. But they're all marked on my board of routes versus features, and if we get to a route that we're going to upgrade and it's appropriate to add those features in, then we will do, certainly. A good example is Main Specibarn that we have recently worked on. We haven't actually added level crossings to that route because we found that on the main line there were no level crossings to implement, and then where roads did cross the railway line in the Aschaffenburg harbour area and the port, they were working like industrial crossings, so they didn't actually have any gates or any operational features. So there was no real point in adding that feature in, taking up memory, using game performance for something that you weren't really ever going to see. So that's an example where we've gone to a route and it didn't need level crossing feature added.
Now, I know I've asked you about the scenario planner here, but you're not responsible for the 2.0 upgrade, are you?
No, my team will be involved in how do we make sure that everything is compatible with the preservation collection. Also, just my involvement in what's appropriate to be added, what the community be talking about. I'm more than expecting that we'll be bringing in the community team as well to make sure we get input from that side. So we're not actually doing the upgrading itself, but we'll definitely be involved in the process for sure.
And for anybody currently asking questions regarding the Scenario Planner 2.0, there should be more information shared on Thursday. I'm not entirely certain how much information that's going to be, but you will get a little bit more meat on Thursday with Matt and Sam and JD. Now, the other popular, the other highly talked about point with regards to the roadmap this time was the addition of the 363 on Dresden. Now, I've seen this was really popular. The community were really happy to see it. So I asked Matt, and he gave me a little bit of insight into the decision to include the 363 on this roadmap. And the reason it's been added is in direct response to a lot of people asking for shunting. And the team decided that they wanted to make it a bit different to the ones that, to the other 363 I believe we've already got. It will be in the DB blue livery with red wheels. And it has some minor model changes, such as reduced guardrails. Apparently, it's nothing major, but it's a bit more than just a simple repaint. Matt said you'll be able to use it in service mode and one of the scenarios. He said it's primarily used in the chemical plant at, oh my goodness, I don't know how to pronounce that, Nunchrits? Nunchrritz. There you go, I spelt it out. Now, I did try really, really hard to get you a picture, but I'm not allowed to share that just yet.
It was denied.
It was denied. It was definitely denied. So hopefully we'll be able to share some pictures of it with you soon as well. Now, onto the preserved collection. So we had 3 new additions onto the roadmap this time, Adam. We had the West Somerset Railway Preservation Update, the main Spessart Barn Preservation Update, and the Bakerloo. Did I say Bakerloo line?
Bakerloo is certainly on
the Bakerloo line Preservation Update.
List.
Yes.
Yep.
I read them in completely the wrong order then. Now,
certainly Bakerloo has been bubbling in the background. So
should we start with the Bakerloo? Give us a bit of meat. What is going on in that? Because that point is very vague. It just says there's an update. What are you doing?
Yes, so the things that we have been doing on Bakerloo, that really we were hoping could have come out before now, but the fact that some of this stuff didn't means we've been able to add a little bit more. So the list is that we have added the landmarks back for the console versions, the examples being Wembley Stadium and the Shard.
Yes.
That you can see from nearby stations, the Shard being London Road, because it's at the southern end of the route. We have reviewed and improved most of the station's stopping points along the line, both northbound and southbound. That one is actually particularly in testing because there's a lot going on with that, and there's a lot of stations to check. But basically, one of the key features of the underground, the operation, is that the trains fit exactly the station, certainly on the underground section.
Yes.
And there are little monitors for looking at the station and making sure everything's safe at the end that the driver would stop.
Okay, yeah.
Points that you stop at were not necessarily aligned. They were kind of a bit vague, close to and far away from that point. So we've gone through and aligned those all up so there's a lot more consistency. Because the stopping accuracy on the underground is quite important.
Yes.
There's been a lot of, I won't go into the detail, these will be for the patch notes, but there's been a lot of tweaking, improving of the overground signalling. Not the overground as in the operating company, but the part of the route that is overground, above ground, where it moves to 3-aspect colour light signalling. There was some tidying up that we've done there, and some rogue signal colours, signal aspects that we fixed. A big one that did go in, this was one of the ones we wanted to come out much before this point, but it never seemed to get a release slot, is we've made it so that the speed limit changes occur at the front of the train instead of the rear. So when you're going from a low speed, say 20 miles an hour, going into a 35 mile an hour section, traditionally on the UK network, until the rear of your train enters the 35 mile an hour section, you're not allowed to accelerate. It is actually different on the underground, the London Underground. As soon as the train reaches the higher speed limit, they're allowed to begin accelerating. So that's now reflected in the route. That was really cool. We got some engineering support with that.
I have a question for you from Matt Jamaica. Will the 72 stock still wheel slip underground when raining on the surface?
Let me get back to you on that one. Wheel slip. It isn't on my radar for testing on 426, so I'll make that a point to double check where that has got to.
Now, another comment I'm seeing from a few people is, at this point, we are obviously sharing some information that they might have already heard.
Yep.
And there are going to be some changes, but largely there is going to be some stuff that remains the same.
Well, that's why I was saying, really, I opened this with, if you have been watching a few of the last roadmap streams, basically for the last 2 months, we have been working on towards the rush hour release, because everything being updated to the 426 version of Unreal means that as the software stands, as all the routes and the trains as they all need to come out again built on 426. The game at the moment is running on version 423, and so that means that anything we've been touching at all is going to be released. So we had to stop doing new stuff and make sure that everything we were doing is good and ready to come out, because there would be, my team would be working on a few bits here, a few bits there, in prep for a route that we might be working on in 2 months' time or something.
Mm-hmm.
They jump around and get an idea of, I think this would be a good thing to upgrade, or this would be something that people have been asking for, so let's start looking into it. The rush hour release kind of draws a line and says, actually, everything has to come out at this point here.
Mm-hmm.
And then we can carry on again. So we stopped doing everything new at the end of May, and we have been working on Bakerloo, making good Bakerloo, East Coast Way, Mainspace Barn and West Somerset,
and then,
along with a few others that we'll get to later in the stream.
And then today what we're doing is just keeping everybody updated with how that progress is coming along.
Exactly, yeah, definitely.
So you were going through the list before I interrupted you.
That's
Would
cool.
you like to carry on?
So we're still talking about Bakerloo.
Yes, we are.
We have been improving the character movement at stations. That is something still in testing, actually, because a few bugs did come back. But basically, the jetpack characters was something we really tried to hit hard. I haven't had confirmation that it's been eradicated, because we're now seeing it on other routes in Trains World 2, so it might indicate that it's not a Bakerloo specific thing.
Yep.
But certainly it was occurring on Bakerloo, so we've been working on that. We have added back snow and rain effects to the above ground section.
Mm-hmm.
Those were taken away, or
Yes.
The
Wasn't
approach
it?
was that because 50% of the route was going to be underground,
Yeah.
would you ever really experience, or would there be enough experience of snow and rain effects? More so more so snow than anything, especially in London, in the southeast of the UK. But feedback since the route was released is that actually, players do want to see snow and rain effects. So our environment artist Adam has put some effort into putting those in, and I believe, I'm not promising anything, but I believe the snow has a 3D element to it. It's not just painting the platform white. So
yes,
so
you've mentioned that, but can we just reiterate the fact that is not a promise? That is just something that you think.
I believe that is what he was working to. Adam was working to. Yeah, it wasn't just a case of painting the platforms white, because even I would be like, well, is it worth doing that?
So for the time being, we're going to hope that it is.
Yes, I mean that's
what we'd like, and as soon as we have confirmation, we will give you confirmation on that.
Yeah, I mean, maybe for the next roadmap stream, we'll try and take some screenshots or something. I'll note that down.
No, we can try. We'll see.
Yes, well that's it. If we don't have any screenshots, then I was giving away far too much.
Yes. Now we have had a lot of questions with regards to the Bakerloo line while you've been talking, so let's try and answer just a few of them while they're here. One of the first ones is, will more services be added on the Bakerloo line?
At the moment, no. We have not worked towards changing the timetable. There is still some more dispatch work to be done to enable more stuff to happen on the Bakerloo line.
Yep.
We did try and spread the services out, so at the moment you have this big block of trains moving around, and then when you get to the end of that block, there's then a big gap before the block starts again. We did try and spread them out, but that didn't go very well. So at the moment there are no changes to the timetable on Bakerloo.
The next one is, will the Bakerloo line be fitted with the door safety when you have to stop on the right mark to open the doors?
That one, if someone could post a forum topic about that. I'm not quite sure I understand.
Yeah, fair enough. So you'd like a little bit more context to that question?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's have a look. There was another one which has now disappeared. What about Timetable Upgrade, Adam? Bakerloo line is in need of it because of the gap between services, especially above ground. I wouldn't mind if it was every 15 minutes because of the limitations the game has, but 40 minutes is not acceptable. Can the team look at possibly improving this?
Well, that was what I just said. Yeah, basically we tried to look at spreading the trains out. So same number of trains we know the system can cope with, but they're just more evenly spread over the course of say an hour. But it didn't go very well, so we weren't able to progress with that. So at the moment there are no changes to the timetable.
And then a couple more before I let you go. Continue with the list. Has the invisible wall been fixed at Elephant and Castle?
It's funny enough, I think there are 3 or 4 invisible walls. Because,
okay.
Yeah, we definitely did fix some at the southern end, going into the siding. We definitely found some there. So there was one on the platform. Then there was some issues with players getting into the tunnels or coming out of the tunnels. Sorry. So we fixed those. And then I've had more reports of while you're on a train, you can get stuck behind an invisible wall.
Yes,
so
I've heard about that one as well.
Yeah, so everyone, the report came to me, or the reports came to me as there's an invisible wall, and I think there are several. So I need to go hunting that one again. I thought I definitely had fixed the one of the train where you're on the train, because I knew what the mechanism was that was going on, but I don't think that one. I swear I've seen a report where that one is still giving issues. So
you've looked into it, but this isn't going to be something that is coming with Rush Hour?
It doesn't look... If that's still present, then I don't think we're going to have time to continue fixing it, no. But some of the invisible walls at Elephant Castle have definitely been fixed.
And also, just to reiterate, obviously we're talking about the updates that are definitely going to be coming with Rush Hour, and you're listing off the ones that you know are going to be coming with Rush Hour. Does that mean that you're going to forget about the Bakerloo after Rush Hour? Is that it? Is job done?
To my knowledge, no. It does have a lot of the features that we're going to other routes and upgrading, so it's not going to get a big pass like, say, West Somerset or Long Island Railroad have received recently, because there are other routes in the queue that need attention. But it's certainly not a case that we would never come back to a route. So yeah, every route is going to get attention and can get attention at any time. And also, it's not a fixed priority. It's not a fixed schedule where we're never going to work on that until we've done something else. If feedback is, if the community team come back through and say, look, we need this looking into, then that would come up as well. So we're very dynamic about what we work on.
Now, let's carry on with that list.
So that was pretty much it for Bakerloo line. The last one was the platform monitor clipping the train at Harlesden. So that was definitely been fixed as well. So it's somewhat of a short list for Bakerloo, but improvements that we've definitely wanted in place before now. But at least they're now coming to a couple of the players.
Did you mention the one where when you drive into the speed markers and then it's currently the back of the train?
Yes. Yeah, we have. Yeah, we have improved that.
Yeah. Right. Next on the list was the West Somerset Railway preservation updates. What have you changed?
Well, so this is one of the 2 routes that we were working on before we then called it time and said, right, we've got to focus on making sure everything's good for rush hour. So actually West Somerset has had a very reasonable update, so very pleased with what is coming to that route. So starting from the top, I'll probably try and be a bit quicker about this because the list is a lot longer. We have unlocked the use of immersion controls, as well as removed the locks on controls in the tutorials.
What do you mean by locks?
So early days of Trenton World 2020 and Trenton World 2, tutorials would be locked so that you could only make an adjustment to the control that is active for the objective. So it says set the throttle to 20%,
Yes.
you literally couldn't do anything else. You could only set the throttle to 20%, and when you did, the controls would lock again, and you'd only be able to move the next control as instructed. We've removed that. Great player feedback. That didn't work for the majority of our players. That wasn't a very positive experience. So one of the processes I'm going through with each of the routes is to remove those kinds of restrictions, so that not only are you no longer forced to use the classic controller layout, you can now use the Immersion one, but also you're able to adjust the controls as you see fit. That does obviously mean that with great power comes great responsibility, and if you don't follow the instructions, then you could well come astray from the tutorial itself.
So so does that mean that people could put themselves in a situation where they're unable to complete the tutorial?
It is possible, yeah. If you break the trains, they're set up like the real thing. They will cut out. The engine could stop. You could go beyond where you're allowed to, so the signalling could kick you out. So tutorials are designed that you carry out the instructions as they are given to you. But without the locks, it does mean that you have a lot more freedom. There is some initial movement freedom, so when you're as the player down on the ground and you're walking around, there is still the box around the locomotive saying this is really where you should be focusing. If you want freedom, complete freedom, then timetable mode is where you want to play. But at least on the tutorials, you're not going to get locked from being able to undo a mistake that you might realise you've made. So
fair enough. So it just means that, like, an example is it's telling you to go faster, but you'd like to put the blinds down. You're now able to do that.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's a lot more. It's a lot better. A lot more freedom in the tutorials, at least. Yeah.
That's great.
So we have added level crossings. This has not been a port over of any artwork from another route. It has been new artwork because the level crossings on West Somerset are levered gates that cross over the track, rather than electronic arms that come down across the road. So a great example is at Blue Anchor, the square crossing gates go from blocking the road to blocking the track, which is really cool to watch. I think at Minehead it is actually lowered level crossings, but there is, it's definitely new artwork that's going in there. That's really cool to watch.
Jack Varley's asked, will the white flashing light that says the crossings are active to trains work on West Somerset?
To my knowledge, that is the case, yep.
That's cool.
Yeah, so that is now relevant. I believe the signalling was already in place for that, but now obviously the signalling is reflective of it as well, so it's all tied together.
And actually, sorry, on the topic of level crossings, how are we on all of the preserved stuff with that? Is that something that you intend to bring to all of the preserved collection?
I won't say that we're going to bring it to all the routes. Obviously, going back to citing main specibon, we aimed to put that feature in and found that it wasn't necessary to put in.
Yes.
But I'm looking at, there are at least 9 more routes to review whether they need level crossings. In fact, I'm going to drop that to 8 because, to my knowledge, Great Western Express doesn't need level crossings.
Okay.
So I'm looking at 8 routes that are still on the radar for level crossing technology. And while we're here as well, I'm looking at, I believe, 8 routes for the platform information systems as they currently stand. So the kind of stuff that you're seeing in Southeastern High Speed, that you're seeing in East Coastway, that's going to come out with Rush Hour as well. The current technology, Rapid Transit. The current technology of platform information systems. About 8 routes are still on my list for review for that system. So there's still a reasonable number of routes to upgrade for these different features.
Laserjet said, Natalie and Adam, Minehead level crossing in real life is getting an upgrade and the signalling is getting changed. Now, I doubt that's going to change the actual, what we've done, because don't we base our routes during a rough time period?
Yes, so obviously routes, railways and trains are changing all the time. They're getting upgraded, or they're getting, some of them, for example, on main specibon, entire sections of the route are demolished. and they actually built a tunnel that cuts off a large portion of the route we built. On Great Western Express, they finished the overhead catenary system that powers electric trains along that route, whereas ours obviously is based on when they were still building it. So any route or railway or train that comes out for Transit World will be set at a particular time period, and we have never gone back and changed that setting. So, for example, Great Western Express is set, I believe, in 2016 is the time period for that route, and there are going to be players that like it in that time period where there's a lot more diesel trains running around. It's the high-speed train of the 166, whereas now you've got completely different trains that run on that route, and it is apart from a number of other technical challenges, and we would pretty much be changing your product that you've purchased. If we were to suddenly, you'd wake up and find that the HSTs have been swept away, the 166s have been swept away, and you've got two completely different trains and you can't go back. That's just not something that we plan to do. So a route that is released is always set in that time period, and that's it.
What it does mean, though, I'm sure, is that, and please do correct me if I'm wrong, but when we create new routes and when we create new locos and we decide on new routes, we say we were doing something modern, we would try to make it as authentic as we possibly could, which would mean that we would include the newer safety systems, the newer signals, and that type of thing.
It's based on what time period are we selecting, and then we will aim to recreate as far as we can, as far as appropriate, the experience of that time period. We have done routes set in the past. Our Northern Transpennine route and our Tees Valley Line routes are set in the 80s, and we have designed the experience and the railway as it was back at that time, which is completely different to the way it looks today. So, yeah.
On the topic of West Somerset Railway, we've been asked, would it be possible to make the shed on tracks in Dunster animated, openable in future to be able to use the tracks lock behind it for shunting?
So there are no plans. I'm seeing Sam in my head on this one. There are no plans to do that. That is a feature implementation. So we don't have any plans. It's not on the roadmap. It's not even in planning. We don't have any plans to do that. But with the history I have and the experience I have of working in Unreal Engine and working with designing Transit World, the fact that you can walk around in first person, those are great ideas that I would love to see in the future. Those are things where, expanding the interaction of the world is something I would love to see. So that's a great suggestion, but we have no plans to do that stuff.
So that is a case of, in Adam's perfect world, you would love to see that, but currently not happening.
Yeah, exactly.
Excellent. All right, let's carry on with this list, because you did say it was extensive.
Let's try and group a few together. We have fixed an issue with Minehead Shunter Part 2, where the stopping the train in a particular place at Minehead was a problem, and I think it's a different one. So we fixed Minehead Shunter Part 2. We have fixed the finishing up scenario, where I think the sequence of uncouple and contact the signaller objectives was the wrong way around. I actually don't know how that occurred. I'm sorry, because it wouldn't have gone through the initial development that way. But we fixed that. We have fixed issues with the Take It Home scenario, which I believe is a Class 33 scenario. I haven't got the details in front of me, but it's on the list. We have also paid attention to that one. These were great feedback from the community as well, so thank you very much for reporting those.
May I interrupt? Will West Somerset Railway get PIS?
It has not been done for this pass, no. The sticking point was we couldn't settle on what the solution would be. The real railway does not have electronic display boards.
Yes.
It would be inappropriate for the route, given that it's intended to look like it's back in the Steam era.
Well,
we had talked previously about having chalkboards or something, or some kind of static board, because there are only a set number of trains that run each day. It's not like rapid transit where there's like 300 trains running around.
Well, the continuation onto that question was, if yes, will it get new artwork? So, although it's not coming with Rush Hour, if you do intend on doing it, you would then, I imagine, change the artwork.
That was it. So that was the sticking point that meant we couldn't do it in this pass. It needs an authentic solution that we couldn't do. So the West Somerset Railway is not getting PIS for the stations. However, it is getting a reasonable update to the timetable. There are additional services that we have added into the timetable. So there now, I believe, there are 33 services in total. I think there might actually be more. But basically, we've now added in all of the startup manoeuvres. So instead of you joining at the start of the day and all the trains already being in the stations ready to go, you've actually got to bring them in from the sidings now before those first public services.
Yep.
We've also added in compatibility with the Tees Valley Class 101 DMU. So now you can run a 2-car DMU around the route. There were actual gaps in the timetable that we'd created, so we could slot in another train running up and down the line. So that was really cool. We've now used that slot. And I've unlocked the ability to use, I've got a list here, the Class 08, the Class 20, the 31, the 37, the 40, the 45. If you have any of those trains from other railway lines, then they will now appear, the 52 as well, sorry, they will now appear on the West Somerset timetable. And finally, in relation as well to that, is static stock has been placed around the route on the timetable. So it's not just the trains that are moving, there are static trains sat around the yards. So it looks a lot more like the original plan of the diesel gala that we had for West Somerset. So, for instance, at Willerton, there is some additional diesel locomotives that are stationed at the depot there. So that looks really cool.
We've been asked, do the trains still derail on the West Somerset Railway turntable?
We haven't changed the physics, so I know that it can be tight for some of the longer trains. So I would imagine that is still going to be the case, that it is possible to derail the train on the turntable. And
then, as you briefly mentioned, Tees Valley, we've had 2 questions that I would like you to try and answer. Where is the Tees Valley flag on the main menu? Now, I'm asking this as well, right? Because currently, I go down there and it is the only one that doesn't have a flag, Adam.
I know, and
it upsets me.
What's frustrating is that all the flags were added for the launch of Train Sim World 2. But those DLCs have not been updated since Train Sim World 2. So the flags are all there, they're all on the system. And it has been frustrating, even for me. The work's been done, but it never got released. So yeah, that is a problem that we're really trying to work hard to resolve, where we've got work that has been done, but it's not getting the slots, it's not finding an opportunity to be released.
Yes.
And that is something we're working very hard with the build team. They have an awful lot of stuff to deal with, and we're just another entity that is adding to their list, adding to their to-do list stuff. So we're working hard to solve that one. That is a bottleneck for us.
I will quickly circle back to that one. But on the topic of Tees Valley, we've also been asked, will you be updating Tees Valley and Transpennine routes, and will it get new artwork? So are they being updated for Rush Hour?
They are not being updated for Rush Hour unless there were any issues as part of moving from the current version of Unreal to the new version of Unreal. There's not been a preserved crew pass on those 2 routes yet.
So people might still see an update to the DLC, but there has been no active preservation crew changes, correct?
Yeah, there's been no feature upgrades to those routes yet.
Now, you touched on the fact that we're trying to improve our update, how we release our updates. Could you give a little bit more clarity into that? I know we've answered it before on previous roadmap streams, but could you try and explain what we would like to achieve going forward?
Well, it's more a case of what is it that's meaning we've got all these changes and these fixes, improvements. So, like for instance, Bakerloo,
Yes.
but they just haven't come out. The issue that we've been discussing with the build team and the release team is that we're doing the updates we're doing are too big.
Yes.
And therefore, if they become available, like the team has done the work, they become available at the wrong time when there's already a big queue going on with releases. You know, we've got to schedule up different consoles, different platforms. We've got to come out on PC. It just can't get in the queue. You know, the queue is full. And then by the time that another opportunity comes up, we'll have worked on another route. That route goes into the mix, and the build team like, right, they've just added this route. Okay, we'll start working on this route. We'll bring this in. So that's why, for instance, we've had updates to Long Island Railroad, which was worked on after Bakerloo.
Yes. And
so
the updates
timing is a real problem. Yeah.
And the updates for Long Island Railroad were very, very significant. There were a lot that went into that. It's an awful lot for people to get in one go, and it's an awful lot for everybody to digest in one go. So
yes, but what it needs, it needs the resources on the QA's team. It needs the focus from our beta group. It needs the support from the marketing and the publishing and the community teams. We need a lot of resources to bring that to players, and so far we've found that there are instances where the timing just does not work, and partly the release of Rush Hour and upgrading the version of Unreal has forced our hand on some of these things, which is why the preservation crew had to stop doing anything new 2 months ago, and focus solely on, right, where is everything at, let's make sure it's all good. So what we're trying to now do is look at, can we do smaller, more contained changes and then do them more frequently, and that means we can fit them alongside other activities that are going on, now instead of dropping a ginormous block on somebody else's plate and hoping they can deal with it.
Now these are discussions that are being had for after Rush Hour, aren't they? And there is currently nothing set in stone. This is all very much we'd like to improve and we're trying to improve.
Exactly, yeah. The proof is going to be when we do it regularly. So, until we do that, we're going to be working on improving it.
Yes. Now, should we head back to the West Somerset discussion?
Yes, although, to be fair, we could probably wrap up most of it. We've got the classic improve the track rendering, so as you're driving along, you're not going to see the sleepers popping up in front of you. That was a frustrating aspect. We have changed the default brake setup from air brakes to vacuum brakes on the main timetable. This is the thing that unlocked the ability to bring in a lot more trains for use because they were vacuum braked trains. That's going to be one for our technical fans. We have added moving road traffic and the Trinity Model 2 skybox. There has been discussion, we had it just before the stream as well, there's a new skybox technology coming out, I believe. It's not currently on my radar. On the preservation crew's radar. If the main team are working on something there, then when they're finished with it, we'll get our hands on it and see if we need to do anything. And we've added the ability to climb up anywhere on the platform instead of having to go to a particular point. And then the final thing, actually, that has spawned into a few locomotives now. I've got a small list of half a dozen. Is one of the final menus, partly to do with immersion controls actually.
Yes.
One of the final menus that you would come up on the screen is contacting the dispatcher, or contacting the signalman, when you need to pass a signal, a danger, or you need to request permission to proceed. That was a menu that came up on the screen. And part of the immersion controller layout change was to get rid of those menus, so you wouldn't have to be flicking through the headlights menu, you wouldn't have to be flicking through the camera menu. So to contact the signaller now, on the West Somerset Railway, we've added a little walkie-talkie onto the desk of the Class 09 and the 47 and a few other locomotives, so that when you need to do those, when you need to contact the signaller for a lot of the shunting moves, and West Somerset Railway is great for shunting moves at either station, either end, you can now click on the walkie-talkie to contact the signaller.
Oh, I like that.
So yeah, it brings that functionality directly into the cab.
That's a nice little extra.
Yeah. So,
yeah, no, I really like that.
Now we're open to feedback. We know this is something new. It was it wasn't overly difficult to bring that in. It was something we had been thinking about. So yeah, we're trialing on the West Somerset. If it works well, if the feedback is great, then we'll look at approaching it for other routes to see if it's appropriate. Some trains do have a radio in their cabs already, so we won't necessarily need to add particular artwork, but we want that functionality of contacting the signal to be something in the cab as well. So yeah, we'll see how that goes down.
Now, while you've been talking, there has been some discussion with regards to the 313. And so for anybody asking about the 313, this is on hold until after rush hour is out. Once the designers aren't working on rush hour anymore, they will be back on working on the 313, just for anybody who's asking about that. Now, on to the third point for the preservation crew. It feels like, I know we've only touched on two, but there is still a third. So the third point was the main Spessart barn preservation update. Can you provide us with some information and a bit more context about that particular point?
To save repetition, I won't go through the standard upgrade stuff. Platform edges, skybox, road traffic, level crossings, platform information systems. So things particular to main Spessart barn, the biggest aspect that has had attention is adjustment of the trains on the main timetable. When we added the adhesion functionality in Train World 2, it meant that some trains were actually too heavy to get up the Spessart ramp on that route. So the main Spessart barn is a very famous route in Germany for having a particular hill climb.
Yeah.
And we found that some of the trains were now too heavy.
Was that a physics error?
Physics.
That was
It was a miscalculation.
Yeah.
In the original release. So that was unfortunate. And when we put in even more advanced physics system for the adhesion of the trains, that meant that some of the trains under poor weather conditions could no longer climb the Spessart ramp. So we've been through and adjusted those trains and recalculated, how many wagons, how much freight are they able to carry or haul, sorry. Do they have the right number of locomotives at the front or at the rear as well, helping to push up the hill? So that's gone through. That did have a knock-on effect on the timetable. So there's been some adjustments at times, but it is now back together again. The parts are now back in the box. So we should have no longer have issues with the main timetable.
I'm just going to interrupt you.
Yeah, go on.
So Mark's asked, when are the updates for WSR and Bakerloo out? So these will be coming out after rush hour. Well, during rush hour. During the rush hour release?
It's whenever Train Sim World 2, the core update to rush hour comes through. That is when you'll get all of your DLC, all of your routes and trains upgraded as well. It's whichever day that is, and that is not something that I'm privy to. The rush hour and the main team and all of that is a different bubble.
That's quite funny. That's like you were anticipating everybody trying to trick you into sharing the release date.
Even I'm not privy to that date. I just know when my deadline is for all the work to be finished. So yes. When that is different, yeah.
So would you like to continue with the list? I interrupted you mid-flow there.
That's cool. So we had updates to the safety systems. So things like PZB and AFB have taken on board the latest improvements that we're aware of. So things that have gone into Rapid Transit and a few other German locomotives. We've now put those improvements into the safety systems of main Spessart barn. The same with the audio. I am still actually waiting for confirmation from our beta group that the audio is in an improved place. So I can't give it any update on the audio side of things. Martin has been making changes So yeah, I'm waiting for confirmation that everyone is happy with those changes.
Yep.
There was a speed sign at kilometre post 62. I've got a note here that someone has fixed. So at kilometre post 62, there was a speed sign showing the wrong speed.
Yep.
That's now been corrected. And we've had the localization team working with us on this route to improve some of the languages and the translations that were in place. We had some unhappy foreign-speaking players that wanted improvements, so we've made sure that they have gone in as well. And we've added rail driver support. I don't think I mentioned that on West Somerset, actually. We've added rail driver support to all the main specified locomotives.
Ooh. Well, that's great.
And the West Somerset as well. So actually, in the rush hour release, we did a review of what locomotives are still outstanding to get rail driver support.
Yes.
And we've been able to bring in a whole raft of more locomotives with rail driver support. So that's going to be really cool. I don't want to confirm which locomotives yet.
Yes, please don't.
The team is still testing to make sure that rail driver is in a good place for each of these locomotives. But yeah, it should see a reasonable number. If all going well, if they all pass the tests, then it should see a reasonable number of locomotives updated for rail driver support. So I'm actually really looking forward to that as well. We wanted to speed up getting that functionality out.
And then, are you able to answer some questions? I hope so.
Yeah.
Could you shed some more light on to whether any changes have been made to the audio on MSB or not?
So it was definitely part of the work package. There were some issues with the motor sounds. There was issues with the wind noise. There was issues with the footstep sounds as well when you're inside vehicles. But I haven't had confirmation back that everyone is happy.
Right.
That's not to say that I've had confirmation back that people are unhappy. But after we made changes to the audio on Long Island Railroad,
yes,
and actually we didn't go far enough with the improvements, then I don't think it's appropriate for me to say yes, we've improved them, yeah, it's great. I want external and our beta team to say, yeah, we're happy with those.
So for the sake of rush hour, people should assume that they're not going to be getting audio improvements.
At the moment, yes, I would suggest that we're working very hard to make sure we're doing the right improvements to audio, and because I'm not getting positive confirmation that we've made the right changes, I think it's wrong to assume that we have improved them for now.
Yeah, so assume they're not happening, and the reason they're not happening at the moment is because you want to hit that quality.
Yes, yeah, obviously we want players to be happy, so yeah, I don't want to promise that we have made them happy.
Excellent. And then, while we're still on the topic of MSB, does that mean that all services I've done so far on MSB Timetable will be unchecked with this update, and will they have to do them over? And that's from only me.
So, as far as I'm aware, because we haven't changed the services that are on the timetable, we've merely adjusted the state of the trains, then any progress will be retained. The Train Sim World 2 will still recognise that you've completed that service, even if the train that now operates that service is slightly different. Whereas on West Somerset Railway, if previously you had a tick or a medal next to every single service on the West Somerset, there are actually now additional services. So there will be services that you won't have completed because we've literally added new ones in.
Well, that's nice. The Train Spotter 7 has asked, you mentioned the locos on West Somerset Railway are now set to air brakes by default. Does that mean they'll now sub into rail tour services on other routes?
It's actually the other way round. So when West Somerset Railway was released, all the locomotives and the services on West Somerset were set to be air braked by default. And that meant that some older British Rail locomotives that were introduced by the Tees Valley Line and the Northern Transpennine, which are vacuum braked, could not appear on West Somerset. And that was one of the reasons why the Class 31 ran into issues and was subsequently removed. So we have now adjusted West Somerset so that it can accept more types of locomotives. So it isn't that the West Somerset stuff will appear on other routes. It was a change that allows other locomotives to appear on the West Somerset.
And have you got anything else on your MSB list?
Not for now, no. There are some stuff as work in progress, so there's no point in mentioning those for now. They will probably move to the patch notes if they pass all their tests.
Now, those are the three main preservation additions that were mentioned on the roadmap last week. Is there anything else with regards to the preservation crew and the work you've been done that you'd like to mention while you've still got the opportunity?
One or two other things is freight exchange. They're just like another infamous scenario. Freight exchange was not accepting the fixes we were making to it, so we've battled hard, and we have now, got a fix that resolves the freight exchange problem, where the signals at the start of the scenario on Rus Ignored were red and you can never come out to continue the scenario. That is now fixed. I've seen it go through a few rounds of testing now, so I'm pleased with that. And the Class 101 from Tees Valley line has been given livery design support, so it's not the whole of the locomotive stock on Tees Valley, it's just the 101 locomotive for now. So we're pleased to bring that out. And the heavy freight pack, which consists of the Class 40 and the Class 08, along with a 100-ton tanker wagon and a little 12-ton van, they've also received livery designer support. So they'll be appearing at Rush Hour as well. And then finally the rail driver support for the Rapid Transit Talent 2.
Yes.
That missed its slot to come out with the Rapid Transit update.
Oh yes, I remember. It was very, very close, wasn't it? It only just missed by the skin of its teeth.
Yes, yeah, and that is the nature of software development, is that there are deadlines that we have to adhere to, and unfortunately that one did not pass testing by the time that the deadline came for that release. And so it was disappointing. We'd updated a lot of stuff to have rail driver support then, and that particular train missed. That is now done, and that'll be coming out with the Rush Hour support as well. So Rapid Transit gets its rail driver support.
Now, this list and everything you've shared tonight, this is stuff that you know is coming with the Rush Hour update. But is that a finalised list? Is that it? Is nothing changing? Is there no chance for anything to change now? Or is there still some wiggle room between now and the release?
Certainly the people that I work for would say you're not having any more wiggle room. Be happy with your lot. And to be fair, there is an awful lot coming out. I would rather just focus on ensuring that everything is in a good place that we've already got. The team is moving on to Peninsula Corridor and Oakville Subdivision. We've had some fantastic forum threads created giving us indications of where we should be looking, so thank you very much for that. Ultimately, I would say that anything on the list this evening could be withdrawn, because there is a team after us, the build team, the QA team, that have ultimate say. Even if everything's done, even if everything is in a good place, they can say, we're not happy to bring that change out. So while I can say this work is done and it's green on my list, I don't have ultimate say in its inclusion.
And let's say something did get removed or was excluded from the list. There's going to be a reason that decision would be made, correct?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. The reason would be that there is concern about degrading the player experience.
Yes.
So if there are any concerns about that, then something would get chopped. So all this is based on I'm getting all the right signals that this stuff is going to come out, but I don't have ultimate say on the day.
And then once, just touch quickly on it, once all of the Rush Hour updates are done, what is going to be the focus for the preservation crew? where are you going next? Do you know yet? Is it decided, or is it still being decided?
No, so it is going to be Peninsula Corridor and Oakville Subdivision. We want to go back and work on some US routes. So the team will begin looking at that. I know Jake has already been working on some rolling stock for the livery designer compatibility. So that's really cool progress this week. But coming back to, we still need to work on making sure that the updates we do get out and get released.
Yes.
So I don't think we're going to be aiming for the big updates that we've been listing this evening that you've seen with Rapid Transit and Long Island.
Yes.
We would actually much rather the changes, the improvements, the adjustments that we make are released than doing a load of stuff that then we sit on, because that benefits nobody really. So we'd rather be working on stuff that we can release.
Excellent. Well, thanks for your time tonight, Adam. And I hope we were able to answer a lot of the questions in the chat. I know that for a lot of the people that have been following us for a long time now and been following the roadmap, we will have probably told you stuff that you already know. But there is still plenty to look forward to, isn't there?
Yes, always. And, I really love doing this stuff. The team is having great fun. Getting the feedback, seeing what we could do, trying to turn around those improvements, and we're absolutely loving the feedback we're getting on the forums. So, for example, Peninsula Corridor and Oakville, the community have been kind enough to give us pointers and say this is what you should be looking at. So please do keep doing that. It really does help, and it helps give us focus. So yeah, absolutely loving it.
And I know often the community can feel like your suggestions and what you're telling us doesn't get listened to and doesn't get noticed. Just don't undervalue how much your suggestions help us make decisions, help us change things. Don't stop giving us feedback, please. I know it can feel frustrating sometimes, but it is really, really helpful when you give us detailed feedback. It helps us.
Yeah, I mean, what I would say is it's not necessarily worth tagging me on the forum. What I try and do, any threads that I read through and make notes of, I try and use the helpful tag on that thread to say that, or try and give an indication for it. But yeah, it's not necessarily worth tagging me into them. No. It's more so I get feedback from Natalie of what I should be focusing on, or if there's any concerns, that she comes to me and asks these questions, just like this evening.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, sometimes I do badger you a bit, don't I, Adam?
But that's totally cool. I would definitely rather hear this stuff than we work on something and then find that we miss something crucial. So yeah, I do love the interaction.
But yeah, definitely. And I would love to respond to everybody's forum posts all the time, but unfortunately there are so many, and we just don't have the time or the capability to answer to all of them. But yeah, you do definitely get noticed, and we do read everything that you say. So I think that's it for tonight's stream. Unless there's anything else you need to cover, Adam.
No, I'm sure I've chewed everyone's ears off. There has been some repetition, but as we've been working over the summer, there's been a lot of focus on making sure we've got this great update coming out, and we're all looking forward to it. So yeah, hopefully you are too.
So for the rest of the week on the streams, we have, what day is it? It's Tuesday today. So tomorrow we've got Workshop Wednesday with Jamie. And on Thursday, we will be showing off some of the immersion controls that were discussed in today's article, and there will be an announcement alongside that. On Thursday, again, this announcement, I'm gonna keep repeating it because everybody got really excited. It's not gonna be the kind of thing where our current players are overly excited about it, but I do believe you'll find the stream on Thursday interesting. So please do tune in for that, and you'll have an opportunity to ask lots of questions on Thursday as well. So thanks for your time tonight, Adam, and I think we'll see you, well, we might not see you for the next roadmap one, because I believe Matt is going to be joining us.
Yes, well, we did talk, didn't we, in June, or maybe even back in May, that I may take a break
yes.
And just get my head down while everyone talks about Rush Hour, but here I am. You can't get rid of me. I'm just too excited to talk. So.
So we'll hopefully see you soon, Adam, and have a good evening, everyone. Bye.
If you don't see me, then you know I'm busy.
Yes. Bye, everyone.